And I started in art school. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and we worked with major retailers, Ross, TJ Maxx, Costco. So we were dealing with hundreds of 40-foot containers of rugs and pillows and blankets every year. We don't necessarily do a whole lot of marketing.
Meet Jennelle Miyagawa, Director of Operations at Hosco, an athletic apparel brand shaking up the game since 2020. From art school dreamer to managing global supply chains, she's turned a Chicago startup into a wholesale powerhouse, dressing NFL camps and marathon runners. How? With no ads, free stores, and a passion that fuels 10-hour days. Here's her story.
Could you give advice to younger generations, to people who want to start in fashion?
If you're fighting too hard for something, it's probably not the right thing for you. If it's the right thing, it's really going to kind of, not that you don't have to work for it, but it feels right. Life doesn't take a straightened path. It's great to have goals and dreams and follow those.
Feedback is the term. How are you taking them into consideration right now? Is there a specific effort inside the company to always be reading the feedback, the recommendations?
Satisfaction is important. It's impossible to have 100% satisfaction all the time. Stuff happens. But we strive to have, 90, 95, 98% satisfaction. Often as we can. It's word of mouth. Everybody talks to each other. So if you're doing a good job, you have a good product, good price, and you follow through and kind of make a difference.
E-Coffee with Experts.
Hey everyone, Victor here again with E-Coffee with Experts. It's getting really cold here in Portugal. I was looking for some clothing, something more customized for myself, for DWS, for the Coffee with Experts. And luckily, we have here with us somebody that might help. If in the future, you're either looking for a new brand of clothing, which has its own mission and more things that we'll say about, or if you're looking for somebody to help you get your own merchandising, let's just say not for sale, but for internal uses, you can definitely use Roscoe as the company for your future clothing. But alas, talk too much. Jennelle Miyagawa is here with us. Jennelle, she's the Director of Operations, and we will just have an amazing conversation now about clothing and marketing. Jennelle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Well, it's cold over here too, but probably not quite as cold as in Portugal. Drizzly outside today.
Yeah, I have to be careful whenever I say that I'm cold here in Portugal, usually because I talk to a lot of people from the Nordics, from Estonia, from Norway, and then I tell them, it's super cold here. Is it really though?
Yeah,
it's not. It's not. Yeah, that's it.
Cold for me, but not for everyone.
Exactly. I'm glad that you get me. Jennelle, I just gave a quick intro about who you are and the things that you're doing, but we always love to hear from your mouth. If you could tell us who you are, how it all started for you, where are you right now with this beautiful background that you have? Is it AI generated just like anything else is nowadays? Of course not. But please just enlighten us of who exactly you are and the conversation we'll be having.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jennelle Miyagawa. I'm the Director of Operations for Hosco. Hosco is actually based out of Chicago, but I'm here. I'm remote in Southern California. So this is my remote background.
Amazing. One of the best.
So Hosco has been around since about 2020, and I actually just joined the team over the summer. So I'm relatively new to the company, but we've been making big moves and lots of growth since I started on board. Hosco is an athletic apparel company. So we actually manufacture our own brand. We specialize in sports apparel, and we've recently expanded and are starting a ladies line and a youth line.
Nice.
We started in men's apparel was our number one. Our best sellers are our hats. Everyone loves our hats. And as our brand has grown, we had a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, can we put our school logo on this? Can you embroider our company name on your polos? And so that kind of led us to wholesale. And that's been where my focus has been and our growth has been, is in the wholesale side. And so we're working with a lot of schools, both spirit wear for the schools themselves, but also for the teams and the booster clubs, band, and running team stores. We have quite a few team stores that we've been running for fundraising. We give our cost, and the schools bump up the sell price a little bit. And then, every hoodie someone sells, they get $15 to go back towards the school or back towards their team or whatever they're working for. And so that's been a big avenue for us, and working with sports organizations, travel baseball, lacrosse leagues. And so that's where we've been at. Our 2025 is really blowing up. in the wholesale world. We've taken on a few really big corporate clients. We've done some merch for the Chicago Marathon, which was really exciting.
That's really nice. Congratulations.
And this past summer, we actually did apparel for youth camps for a number of NFL and NBA players too, which was really exciting for companies. We did, Brock Purdy's youth camp. We did Max Strus, NBA. So our name's really getting out there. It's been a really, really fun ride, really exciting time. And that's it. So that's a little bit about Hosco. We're taking off. So I'm excited to be here and kind of tell you about what we're doing and get to know Hosco better.
Yeah, no, and I'm actually glad to know that you are in this growth moment. Let's talk more about it. You don't have to share any industry secrets, just an overview of how things work, how things are growing. But alas, you just mentioned exactly this, the growth. You've been a while at the company, not as long as you just said, but I imagine that you know some of the sales part of it all, the communication, the marketing part of it all. So right now, especially with the mission of growing wholesale, what exactly are you doing? What are the strategies you are thinking of applying? Are you only focused on the American market? Are there any plans for an expansion, maybe to Canada, Mexico, even in the Americas as a whole? I know that you sell in Europe. I was in the website and I was checking some of the items there to buy for myself. So I already know this, but about all else, what can you share?
Yeah, I mean, we are still a relatively young company, so it's kind of an evolving strategy, very fluid. But we've had our base foundation was in Chicago, so South Side of Chicago. You walk down the street, you're going to see someone wearing a Haas hat. So kind of where it started, and then it's really about networking, making connections, going back to where did you play football in high school? Does the coach need merch for his team? And once you get your foot in the door with a couple of schools, it's word of mouth. Everybody talks to each other. So if you're doing a good job, you have a good product, good price, and you follow through and kind of make a difference, word travels fast. And that's where we're at right now. Is we used our network and got our foot in the door with a handful of schools, and then that very quickly turned into one coach talks to 4 other coaches, and then we have other team stores going up, and it's growing quickly, relatively organically. We don't necessarily do a whole lot of marketing. We do have a TikTok shop. We did some marketing through the holidays and Black Friday, but we really haven't hit hard on advertising. A lot of it is through word of mouth connections.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the dream for a lot of companies, not having to spend a lot of budget in ads and just having a nice community. And as you said, you meet the first school, and then the first school likes what you do, but they're friends with that other school, and then word travels.
And it's the industry that we're in, especially, I mean, we do corporate and businesses as well, but with the athletic industry in particular, it's high school sports, the options are relatively limited on who they can use. There are a few other, big competitors that they work with, or name brands, but with bigger companies, I mean, you go on their website, there's no one-on-one service. No one's going to come to your school with samples or sit down with you or go to your games. That's another area where we really stand apart, is we want that relationship with our clients. We want partners. It's not just you're a number in our book. You're like, we know your name. We know your kids' names. We're going to give you samples for free and really get to know
really nice.
Our customers. And I think between that, the quality of our goods, which, we're kind of disrupting the market a little bit, because you're not paying the, Nike and Under Armour high name brand price, but you're getting a quality that's very comparable at, 30, 40, 50% less, plus that personalized service. And so once you have a couple happy customers and word gets out that you have all of these things to offer, it's a really good place to be. So it's a really good, our future and our growth is looking very optimistic.
I'm glad for that. For those that are watching us right now and they're thinking like, hey, let me check it out for my company, for my business. Do you now have a minimum quantity, like the process of, customizing it for businesses? Is it something easy to do? Hard to do?
It is. So a lot of companies do have minimums. On almost all items, there's no minimum. You want to order, you just want to order something for yourself and like 3 managers. You can order 3 or 4 polos, 3 or 4 hoodies or quarter zips. The only thing we have minimums on things that are custom manufactured. So like our hats are a huge hit, but we custom make those. You fabric swatch, you pick if you want rope on the hat, what thread color do you want. So with those, but even then, it's 25 pieces. It's not a huge minimum. So it's really, it's really a pretty easy process. And then I mentioned the team stores that we do with the fundraising. And I feel like that's a great, easy way to try us out too, because when we run team stores, you don't have to order an inventory. You don't have to prepay anything. You just give us permission, help us narrow down and pick out the items. We set up a store for free. We launch it for a couple of weeks. You push it on your end with your network and your families. And then when the orders come in, we place a bulk order and we ship it out to your clients. So there's really very little work that our customers have to do. And there's no financial obligation or no, if we only get 3 orders, it's fine. If we get 300 orders, even better.
Even better.
Yeah, it's risk-free. If you want to try us out, give us a shot, see what we can do. Worst case, there's no sales. You're out no money. Maybe your profit, your profit or your fundraising is only $50 or instead of $500 or $5,000 or whatever that ends up being.
But so the strategy that you have implemented about, not having any obstacles to make sure that the clothing gets there, that's really different when you get into comparison. For example, Chinese suppliers who have minimum quantities of the 100 mark. So you're just like living the American dream. You're giving American products to Americans, spending the money on things that matter, not having a lot of worries marketing wise. This is a really great overall operation that you're running, and kudos to you all.
Thank you.
You just said that you have a quality that's near with Nike and Adidas, but, way lower price, which again, I was indeed seeing this when I was visiting the website. It was accessible. I think that the word is accessible. It's not like I'm not going to break the bank just getting a hoodie from you.
The prices you see on our website are our retail price. When we do wholesale and school fundraising, it's even better.
Better. That's right. So if the retail price is already very good, the wholesale, even better. So again, congratulations. Really nice idea overall. But how is it right now that you are communicating with the producers, the suppliers of the clothing itself, making sure that it keeps that high standard in terms of quality? I was just saying in regards to the Chinese suppliers, I imagine you get your clothing from the Chinese or a nearby area, right?
We do manufacture overseas. Most of that is coming from China, but we with Pakistan and a few other regions as well. But the bulk of it is, that has its own challenges to navigate, especially with minimums. But we have the network of manufacturers that we work with. We've developed a really strong relationship with them. They've grown with us. So we've really had a mutually beneficial partnership where as we're growing, they're accommodating to the unique small orders or unique products, customizations that we have because it's helping their business grow alongside us. So it's a really good system that we have. And even, if you go to your local print shop to get some shirts printed, you're still going to wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Some companies, you're going to wait even longer. Even though we're manufacturing overseas, some of it we do domestic as well. Our turnaround is 2 to 3 weeks. So it's
actually brilliant.
It's really quick. Obviously with the current importing situation and everything, things are a little tricky at the moment, but we're still able to give those good prices and the quick turnarounds, and we're navigating things as they change.
It's talking about Europe, for example. I'm in Portugal right now, gonna buy myself a hat, as you just said. Will it first go to the United States, to your headquarters, and then to Europe, or will it be directly from China to Europe? If it's a Chinese manufacturer for that item.
Right now, everything's funneling through our corporate in Chicago. That could change over time, especially as we grow, but we kind of like a little bit of that control. I like to see the product before it goes to my customer. Does it look good? Is it up to quality? Is the embroidery done right? So it kind of just adds that extra level of quality assurance.
Detail, right?
Exactly.
As well. And I know what you mean. Back in 2022, back in Brazil, I started with my wife an iPhone store. So we were reselling iPhones, but they all came from Chinese sources, Chinese suppliers. And we always had this question like, do we give the user a faster delivery by making sure it goes from the supplier to the user directly? Brazil is a huge country, just like the USA. So sometimes 1 to 2 days, it matters for the buyer to have the iPhone sooner. So we would give the option, like, hey, be mindful that if you want a faster shipment, we can do that, but we're not going to be able to change the box. We're not going to provide any experience whatsoever. We're just going to be delivering an iPhone to your doorstep. You're going to have paper bag, non-branded paper bag, no stickers, nothing, right? And right now,
That's another
Wow.
thing. That delivery, that impact of when you open a box, we'll throw in, like, maybe we throw in a hat with your 50 shirts that you ordered, or some stickers or bracelets. And it makes a difference. It's more exciting to open a package that has that personalized touch.
it is way better, especially again in a highly competitive market such as the clothing market and this electronics market. You need to stand out somehow, right?
There's so many people trying to do the same thing. Why you? Yeah, definitely.
That's exactly it. Talking about customers a little bit more then. Of course, this is not a tech company that you have instant feedback over your users who are navigating through a platform and can give you a bug report, a tech issue, or whatever. You need to make sure that you deliver the clothing to the customer itself. It can be the business, it can be the school, the fundraising. And then afterwards, that's when usually the feedback starts showing up. So these feedbacks, these user feedback is the term. How are you taking them into consideration right now? Is there a specific effort inside the company to always be reading the feedback, the recommendations?
Absolutely. Customer satisfaction is important. It's impossible to have 100% satisfaction all the time. Stuff happens. But we strive to have, 90, 95, 98% satisfaction as often as we can. When we're very responsive. If something happens, a size was missing, or one of or had an issue, we jump on it and we replace it. Sometimes we'll throw in something a little extra to kind of take the sting off a mistake or a problem that you had. But yeah, feedback is so important, especially as we are a young company and we're growing. Reputation is everything. So we want to make sure that every customer is happy. We try to make sure that quality is top notch all the time. Delivery is on time for their events or their first game or whatever it might be. And if something comes up, we jump on it. We take it very, very seriously. And the owner is very hands-on too. The owner of our company will call a customer and fix an issue himself.
That's the best example ever, for sure.
Yeah. So
that is.
It's key.
Yeah, it is. And these feedbacks, for example, whenever they come, some of them are institutional. Others can be in terms of supply chain, in terms of who else fabricated the clothing. So talking about vendor relationships, your relationship with your suppliers back in China, especially in terms of crises or feedbacks or negative responses from your customers, how is the relationship that you have with those suppliers as of this moment?
They've been very responsive. It's about developing the right relationships, the right partnerships. Sure. Just like we are with our customers, it's the same with our factories and manufacturers. And we've found manufacturers that are very responsive. If there's an issue, or a quality control problem that we have to address, there's no pushback. They hear it, they acknowledge it, they tell us how they're going to fix it, and it doesn't happen again. We've been really fortunate to have good relationships and find the right people to partner with to make our clothing, where they're just as responsive as we are with our customers. So it's been relatively smooth. I have to say there hasn't been, knock on wood, there hasn't been any significant issues that we've had to deal with. And when there are small issues, we fix them and they fix them quick. So it's pretty smooth.
It is. I can see that the entire situation of the company right now is pretty smooth. You're giving us the impression, of course, just as any other business, things can happen and will happen. But at the other hand, it's clear for me how the mission, the concept is pretty clear and everybody follows it inside the company. My question to you, coming back to the beginning of our episode, would be, why did you even join Roscoe? What was it that you saw that was like, I need to work here as the director of operations?
So, I'll go a little bit into just my background, my professional background, because that kind of leads up to how I ended up. So I followed a non-linear path career-wise.
Great. Love those.
My hats, I've dabbled with a lot of different industries. And I started in art school. I wanted to be a fashion designer. I did not get a degree in fashion design, but that was my interest when I was young. And I've always had kind of a passion I like creating. But I also dabbled with accounting because I love numbers. I love making things make sense. Throughout my career, I've done everything from managing customer service call centers when I was very young. I was managing call centers when I was 19, 20 years old with a team of 30 people.
That is very young, especially in a call center. So many traumas you must have.
That was a tough one.
I imagine. You poor girl.
I learned a whole lot about dealing with people through that.
Exactly. That's the other way around. Yeah.
And then I went into the printing industry where I was working at large format printers, reprographics companies doing blueprints and posters and signage. And that kind of evolved. I enjoyed that type of work, but it was also very demanding.
Makes sense.
There were times when I was working 60 plus hours a week, or I'd work 12, 13 days straight, because as the manager, you got to get things done. And sometimes you don't always have the staff to cover the weekends and odd hours. So that ended up being a lot of work for me. And as I was a mother and I wanted time with my kids, that wasn't the right career path for me. And from there, I went into more of a kind of the corporate world, where I started working with a company that did promotional products, custom printed apparel, business office supplies, and they were kind of that all-in-one solution. But they were a distributor. They didn't make anything themselves. They had a network and worked with other brands and bought from Sanmar and then printed with a local printer and then distributed to the customer. So that I had some experience in apparel and marketing and swag through that company. But they were a very small company and I wanted more. I wanted to grow. I ended up in manufacturing on a really big scale. I worked for a home goods manufacturing company. We did faux fur, and we worked with major retailers, Ross, TJ Maxx, Costco. So we were dealing with hundreds of 40-foot containers of rugs and pillows and blankets every year. And so that was a great experience for me, because it really got me more into the retail side, business to business, wholesale, and overseas manufacturing, because our factories were overseas. And so I learned a lot about understanding the way the business worked and how to have successful, positive relationships with your suppliers and your factories. But that, again, I started having to travel a lot. I was gone about, 25% of the time, 30% of the time, which is too much with a family. So I wanted to make a change. And so, I kind of went more into my graphic design side. I helped working on a startup that's a streaming television series, which is still a work in progress. So I learned video editing, and, I have a very brief, but I have an IMDb page where I'm an editor, which is kind of cool.
No way! That's so nice. Can I put this in the description below once the episode goes live and people can click on it?
There's not much on there, but
even so, Jennelle, congratulations for being there,
And that's where, with my design work with that company, that's where I had work featured in Vanity Fair and Architectural Digest, which was, as a designer, that was a huge milestone. I was really excited about that. But I needed something that was more, I wanted to help build something long-term, something that I could really kind of put all of my skills in, because, I'm not just a designer. I'm not just operations. I have all of this different experience. And I saw a listing it was initially for a product development position. But I got on the phone with the owner of Hosco and we got to talking, and he's so passionate about what he does, believes in what he's started, has a really clear vision about where the company is coming, headed, and how that will branch off into big things in the future. I got really excited about it, and it felt like the right place at the right time. I had a lot of the skills that he needed, as far as organizing and how to get things set up so that as we're scaling, it's successful, because, you have to be organized before you get too big, or else it's a disaster.
Are doomed. Yeah.
So it really just we found each other at the right time. I had a lot of the skills he needed some help with. And so I made that leap with him. We started kind of on a little bit of a part-time basis. And I think within 30 days, we're like, this is it. Like we're supposed to be working together. We're supposed to be building this.
That's so
I took on
nice.
Director of operations, and here I am. And it's been really exciting. It's a lot of work. I was just talking to a friend of mine, I put in 10 hours yesterday, but it doesn't feel draining. It doesn't bog me down, because it's something I'm passionate about. I'm working with other people that are passionate about it. There's a really good energy around the company. And because I am remote, I have a lot of flexibility. Sometimes I'm up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm working before, anyone else is awake. Sometimes I'm working when people are asleep and I work during the day, but it gives me the balance to be there for the important things in life that I need to be there for. That's where I'm at with Haas. That's how I got here. That's why I'm excited to be here, and really excited about what we're doing.
And especially, I don't know if you noticed, but while we were talking about your career in your life, you were always smiling and remembering. And I can see how happy you are to being there. Just because you mentioned talking about this video editing and content generation and image editing that if I understood correctly, it's not your full-time effort right now.
No, no.
Not even, I imagine, not even 20% of your day goes into that, right?
Right now, I'm really focused on Haas. So that while that's,
Yeah.
I haven't completely cut the tie with that project, but that's not where I'm putting my energy right now because
Makes sense.
needs a lot of attention and a lot of time. So that's my number one.
And you have to be the host as well, right? You have to be the host. I'm just pointing this out about the thing that you are doing, how your career went from something to the other, because a lot of people are in this moment right now. I know a nurse, for example, she's graduated in nursery and right now she is the video editor. I know a biologist who right now is a sales manager. Your story about, you thought you were going to be you're going to have a fashion degree. My brother has a fashion degree, for example. Does he work in fashion? No. It does not. The nicest thing about it all is looking at the path of anybody who comes here in the podcast and tells me, hey, Victor, I started wanting fashion right now. There was this whole episode of the thing that you're doing. There was this whole episode of the nice thing the Haas is doing. And at last, my last question to you, especially giving into consideration the entire story, would be, could you give advice to younger generations, to people who want to start in fashion, to people who want to start with clothing or anything else altogether that you can share, even as a mother, as you said, you are a mom. If you have any motherly advice, feel free to share that.
Yeah, life doesn't take a straight path. It's great to have goals and dreams and follow those. But if life takes you in a different direction, that's okay too. And it kind of does sometimes come full circle because now I am in the fashion industry doing athletic apparel and I never really thought I'd end up here. But I think with opportunities in life, especially, professionally, is if it feels right, go for it. Trust your gut. You're going to be, my mom always told me this and it really kind of resonated. And I try to live my life by it too. If you're fighting too hard for something, it's probably not the right thing for you. If it's the right thing, it's really going to kind of, not that you don't have to work for it, but it feels right. When something happens at the right time, at the right moment, that's where you're supposed to be. And I think it's really important to kind of listen to that. And, life tells you what's right, what's right for you. It's going to feel good. Did you have?
No, because what your mother said opened my mind so much. It wasn't a bad thing. I know I gave you an expression. It wasn't like, no, it was actually, wow. A lot of people do the hard work instead of the smart one, trying to make sure that things will change in the future. You and I are gamers. There is a quote, a very famous one. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results. This is from Far Cry 3. And it is true. It is true. Right. We don't have to be insane about pushing things that are clearly not working.
Yeah. If it's not right for you, it's not right for you. And,
you only live once.
Right. And I think so many people are in a job where it's a job and they don't enjoy it. And it's stressful and they work to live,
Great, they work to live.
Position where, for lack of a better term, live to work. I love working. I love what I do. I find it really, really rewarding. It's half of my life, sometimes a little more than half of my waking life. You should be in a place that feels good, where you're appreciated. You like what you're doing. There's room to grow in ways you want to grow. I think that's really, really important. And I feel really fortunate that I've been able to, not to say that all of my jobs have been, stress-free. There's stressful moments. That's just how it goes.
Of course.
Overall, I feel very fortunate that I've been able to be in positions and in a situation where I can live the life I want to live. I can be the wife and the mother I want to be, but I can also devote the amount of myself into my company and my career and our future that I want to. It's a hard thing to find that balance, but it's possible, and it's taken trial and error and ups and downs and career shifts that I didn't necessarily anticipate. But I think that it's definitely possible to find that balance where you can have the personal life that you want to have, that you find rewarding and fulfilling, and also the professional life that you enjoy.
That was one of the best answers I ever got to the what's your life advice. Really. Really. That was one that, especially you mentioning and quoting your mother. So we had two advices here from two people at the same time. It's really important to have those.
My mother was a big inspiration for me. She was a very hard worker, worked her way from the bottom of a company to very high level executive, as a single mom. So she was very inspiring for me growing up.
And I'm sure she will inspire more people just by the single quote that you gave us. This is the time we have, unfortunately. I'm just loving this conversation. But what I always say to my guests is, especially for the viewers who also enjoy this conversation, I'm always making sure the guests come back. Next time you're back, let's focus a little bit more on video games. For example, how is the life of a video game, of a gamer mother? Do you buy video games for a kid? Is he still or she too young? Do you play with your husband? So many questions that the audience will ask in regards to video gaming. We need you back in the future. Okay.
So,
That's it. For everyone else who's watching us, you're going to have all the links down in the description. Go check the merchandise out. I did. It's a really great store overall in terms of clothing. And of course, you can just follow Jennelle on LinkedIn as well. Her link will be down in the description below. Jennelle, anything else you'd like to add?
just that it was a pleasure being here today. I appreciate
Pleasure was mine.
the invite on, and this has been fun, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
We will. We will definitely will. Everyone else, this has been Victor. Thank you so much. Take care and bye-bye.